so even on total strikes at the moment.
If that happens to you, what can you do?
Want to move around a little bit? What's up, Devin? Congratulations, married man.
Oh, congratulations, sir.
My name is Impa Kasanganay. I'm the first person in my family born outside of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And so you kind of have two lives, right? You live in a Congolese house, but you go to American schools, you live in American culture, but when you come home, things are pretty different, right? The way you respect your parents, the way you talk, the way you speak, the different languages you hear in the house. Lingala, Chiluba, Swahili, Kikongo, French, English. Never been to Congo yet because it wasn't as safe, or when I was young I couldn't go. But just hearing the different stories and what brought my parents here, it always kind of grew this pride in me, made me so passionate about learning about my culture, and again to represent them here now in the UFC, it's just it's a big honor, Man. So Chilobo, it's a name that represents my culture and my faith. Back then when you say Chilobo, it's like you're a mighty warrior under God. And that's what it stands for. So for me, it's like, I always be that mighty warrior, I always be that person that comes to fight, that's fearless, that will go and hunt at every single moment. But no matter what, I know who I worship and who I stand under. So that's where it came from. You learn about our ancestors, the respect, and how you want to honor them. So that's something my dad always told me since I was young. You're an ambassador for your family, an ambassador for your culture. To be from where your parents are from, whether it's not the same country but the same continent, it always feels like home. Right, no matter what country I'm in, it makes me connected to everybody else as well.
Low kick, front kick behind that. And it's right out of the Muay Thai template.
Growing up too, I've always been encouraged to go back one day and go back and use this platform, being in the UFC, to be able to help rebuild the country, right? Back in Congo, it's not maybe the most stable country right now. Maybe there's some parts of it that are beautiful and then some parts of it that are suffering, right? And when I was young, I got to spend a little bit of time with my grandma before she passed, and she just tells us how beautiful the country is, right? How you have just landscape for so many miles, just the way they grew up. My dad saying he lived in a house, in a beautiful, beautiful home, while Mobutu was president, right? And then, after his dad passed, they kind of went through it. And then he moved into a home where the water would fill up all the way to the second story level, right? It just kind of makes you wonder how people live such a completely different life than that we do here stateside, and it's something that always gives me a different kind of pride just to be an African American child, right? Being back home in Congo, they could have built a pretty great life for themselves or go back, but it was maybe capped off, right? So they had to go out and get something better for themselves. My dad was planning to go to Europe, but over time he realized this is the best place for him to be. So I never really played sports growing up. Actually, back home in Congo, it's not necessarily celebrated like here it is in Western culture. So my whole life I was into the arts and into education, but mostly played music. Back home you see people who play sports and they say that they're like vagabonds, they live like the slums. So for them, education was everything. And I played tuba, played trombone and guitar. Over time, I thought I was gonna study that in school. I thought I was gonna do that. I remember I wanted to pursue that as my professional career. So it's never really knew what kind of athlete I was when I was a kid. I liked to work out, I liked to go for walks and runs, but I was never allowed to really play any sports. I wanted to go to Berkeley College of Music, and then we moved to North Carolina. Not until my senior year of high school I started playing football. I grew up near the University of Miami, and that's my favorite team. So you hear about the Ray Lewis's, the Ed Reeds, all the great players, Warren Sapp, right? Anybody who came from there, just hard hitters. And I just love anybody, Sean Taylor, right? Just seeing that. And every time I grew up in Florida, all the top prospects came from there. One day I met the football coach, why don't you try it out? And the last things I did in high school were football and rugby. And anything I could just go run around and hit somebody seemed like a lot of fun to me.
My team.
Already here.
And then I just realized I could get a free education and I can build a great life for my family by going to college. And one way to get that paid for was playing football. I wouldn't have been fighting if I had to meet somebody that helped me get into football in high school as well. Being the African kid here, parents weren't really so accepting of that. They didn't understand. They're like, you better go fight people. But after they saw me, training every day, coming to practice, I'd work overnight, I'd work at the grocery store in the morning, so it was like, I was almost like on a 24-hour shift. Like some nights I just, mostly, but they saw like that I was gonna put my all into it. They don't want me just to ruin my life, I think, and so it came from a place of love. When I would meet people in the beginning and tell them that I'm fighting and pursue fighting, they would still say I'm an accountant. Being African, being that, and they're so proud of education, like I got a great job, you know, as a senior at the time with a great company, I just knew it wasn't for me. Over time, you know, things change, and then they started seeing me fight, and they started seeing how I would practice and how I would train, and that makes me want to come every day. I want them to see like the most of it, right? And one of the coolest things was like this past fight, my dad got to corner me for the first time, and you know, he has his own fight kit now, and I wore the Congo kit because he's the first person to leave the country, and his whole family followed after him. He sewed my two flags together, like the Congolese flag and the American flag, and what he was telling me was like, when he was leaving Congo, people were like, no, you're stupid, you shouldn't do that, you're crazy, because you don't know, people in America, they're just gonna get killed when you're out there, it's crazy, it's like the Wild West. Like, and for him, he's like, man, me leaving the country was worth it, because without him bringing me here, I probably wouldn't be fighting. And you know, being his son, like he supported so much, so for him to be out there, man, it really, really, really meant a lot.
They are so even on total strikes at the moment.
The knockout, the fight, the loss really wasn't what got me, like at all. Really, it's like that I didn't perform the way I needed to, right? If anything, it inspired me to be better, right? So I look at that and I find it more of a challenge. Like, you think that was the best? Now watch this. But what it really did for me is help me kind of step back and like reanalyze everything. Like, what do I need to do to get the most out of this? For everybody's reaction, man, it's social media's grown, my support has grown, my reach has grown, sponsors grown. Like, God's blessed me, even though I lost. So it's like, it's really working out in my favor, like Romans 8:28 would say, right? Everything works together for my good. You know, and I know God's working things out for me. When I do have the UFC middleweight title, when I have the light heavyweight, when I have the heavyweight, when those days come, they'll replay that clip, but they'll see what's happened since then. One place I draw strength from is being Congolese American, being a Bantu warrior, being a African man. You know, my ancestors come from Egypt, you know, that way, and on my dad's side, and like I have deep roots in Congo from where they came, right? And you'd realize too, we're not divided. Just because I'm from Congo, someone's from here, like borders only exist in the mind. So anytime you can meet somebody, don't try to beat them because they're from the neighboring country and their issues. If anything, use this platform to build up others. Use this platform to say, hey man, share love, because you've been blessed with that opportunity to do this. And realize that African warrior spirit in you, there's nothing you should ever back down from, ever. Like, it doesn't matter who it is, where it is, where they're from, what, like, you step in that octagon, you step in that cage, you step on in that kickboxing, and anything you do in life, man, just demand the best from yourself and go fight. Fight with your whole heart. To have the opportunity to pursue my dreams has probably been the highest high, and just being able to fight this year already, and moving up with my career, you know, hitting those next levels, like having opportunities to be filmed like this. I remember when I first walked the gym, nobody was coming to film me. I was just filming myself pretty much, right? Remember where you are and who you are and where you're from. Draw strength from that.